The price of gold has hit record levels, making it a must for every investor. But can Muslims invest in gold? I looked into some common funds and found some of them completely failed the test, while others were just taking advantage of Muslims. Today, I'm breaking down 3 popular gold exchange-traded commodity funds, showing you which ones are actually halal and ending with a wildcard investment that could possibly give you outsized returns when it comes to the gold market. If you're trying to invest in a halal way, commodities like gold seem like the obvious choice, but here's the problem. Not all funds are structured the same. To begin, the halal aspect of investing in gold funds comes down to one key Islamic finance principle. The Prophet, peace be upon him, mentioned you cannot sell what you don't own. And so investing in a fund needs to ensure it's physically backed by the commodity and not based on futures, options, or other derivatives. Now, when it comes to commodity investing, there's a couple of reasons why I think everyone should have some exposure in their portfolio. Number one, it's an investing option just like equities. Number two, it's often seen as a hedging instrument against fiat currencies. And lastly, it gives diversification to traditional stock market investing. So having that as the basis, let's look at the first fund, which is Invesco Physical Gold ETC. This exchange traded commodity is one of the most popular gold funds out there, and it's backed by real gold. You'll often find this claim on the fund's homepage indicating it's Sharia compliance. However, their Sharia certificate is also available to be seen, which is great for transparency. The pros for the Invesco ETC is that it's widely available on multiple investing platforms such as Trading 212, Robinhood, or Free Trade, and it's found under the ticker symbol of SGLD, which trades in US dollars, and SGLP, which trades in Great British Pounds. And that's an important difference based on what type of exposure you're after. As someone who's based in the UK, I wouldn't want to worry about in my investing the USD versus GBP exchange rate, and so having that availability in pounds is great for UK investors. Now, the fund fees are 0.12%, which if you compare it to equities is high, but in terms of similar funds out there, it's marketed as one of the lowest in Europe. But at the end of the day, what has its performances been like? The chart shows you if you invested $10,000 5 years ago, what would your returns have gotten you? We can see for the majority of the period, it was stable. And by stable, I mean not much return. In fact, some years you would have lost money. And this is actually common in the commodity market where you'll see low volatility. However, from 2025, you immediately can spot prices spiking, with it reaching a peak in early 2026 of 30K. So your 10K investment would have resulted in a 30K portfolio after 5 years, meaning a return of 200%. And that's an amazing yield, especially comparing to investing in large companies such as Amazon, which would have resulted in a 55% return over the same time period, Meta, a 155% return over those 5 years, or Google, which would have also given you a 200% return. But more on this at the end of the video as I compare those returns to the alternatives in the gold market. Now, the next fund Muslims should consider is the iShares Physical Gold ETC. Very similar to the previous fund, it can be found under the ticker symbol of SGLN and it's listed in GBP. So this is considered halal since it's physically backed by real gold, clearly visible on the homepage. Their fees are also 0.12%. And before we look at the performance and also something else which Muslims these days consider before making any purchase, are the reasons why the cost of Sharia compliant funds are usually higher than non-Sharia compliant funds. One of the key reasons why commodity funds become halal is their physical backed nature. Unlike ETF funds which trade on derivatives, physically holding gold leads to costs such as storage, security, audits, as well as insurance costs, all adding up when it comes to your fees. So with that understanding of why Sharia compliant funds have higher costs, let's look at the performance of this fund. Again, comparing an initial $10,000 investment over 5 years, it would really have left you with no significant difference from Invesco, as the end result would also have resulted in approximately $30,000. However, iShares is a company that is owned by BlackRock, and if you care about boycotts, then BlackRock is one of those particular companies which is often brought up, which leads to a lot of Muslims opting out of this fund. And if you do avoid this fund, it will be at a cost to you as an investor, because iShares is a larger fund and more heavily traded, meaning it's better if you're someone who trades regularly. But if you are a long-term investor in gold like myself, then I'd comfortably end up choosing Invesco without any problems. Now, Fund 3 is a company which offers a whole host of options for Muslims when it comes to commodities. And when it comes to gold specifically, the fund name is Wisdom Tree Physical Gold. Now, this is one of the biggest funds out there, but I'll start with the fees because this is going to look very expensive to many investors. The fees for Wisdom Tree Physical Gold is 0.39%. That's 3 times more expensive than the first two funds. Again, the physically backed nature is clearly demonstrated on the fund's homepage, as well as a Sharia-compliant box indicator. And you can find this in both in USD under the ticker symbol PHAU and GBP, which is under the ticker symbol of PHGP. So this fund is known to track gold slightly more tighter than the first two, making it almost identical to actual gold prices. And even though the fees are higher, I wanted to include this one to show everyone when choosing a fund, make sure you understand how the fund is pricing. So whilst the fund charts look the same as the previous two, with a big spike occurring in 2026, the price only shows 480 on this one. And this is because Wisdom Tree shares represent larger chunks of gold, whereas the first two funds shares represented smaller fractions of gold. But in the end, the result is the same, where it started out at around 165 years ago and then peaked at 486, which also equated to a 200% gain. And if you do want to download all of the information I cover in this video, allowing you to compare these funds side by side on a simple spreadsheet, plus a few extra funds not discussed in this video, then do click on the link below for a free doc. Now, the last fund, which gives exposure to gold, but not in a way we've discussed so far, is a general group called gold mining stocks. So these are not going to be gold-backed funds. These are actual companies whose business is to mine gold. If you're thinking of investing in a gold mining stock, it's important to remember most are not going to be automatically halal, even though gold itself is. That's because you're not buying gold, you're buying a business, and that business must meet certain criteria of Sharia-compliant investing. Now, I'm not going to get into the details of the financial screening criteria. I'm going to leave a link to my previous video where I cover that topic above me somewhere. But focusing back to actual gold mining stock companies, this is just another way to get exposure to the gold market. And an example of a company is Agnico Eagle Mines. And when we review its performance, you'll see why it might be a wildcard for you when it comes to constructing a gold portfolio. If you remember, the previous group of funds always had identical price increases over the past 5 years of around 200%. However, if we look at this company's return, it went from a starting point of 76 to ending at 344, giving you over the same 5-year period a 350% price increase. So is this a hack to receiving outsized returns on gold? Well, when it comes to gold miners, its value is not only derived from the underlying product, which is gold, but unlike gold funds, the value is also derived from other sources such as profit that the company makes to the discovery of new gold mines. So yes, you could do this method of trying to get higher returns on gold, but choosing a company will require you to perform financial analysis every year. And even if you use an Islamic stock screener app to help you in this process, it might become non-Sharia compliant 1 year, causing you to sell, and then 3 years later becoming Sharia compliant again, which in my opinion is a bit of a hassle when it comes to constructing a portfolio. So that's why this is a wild card, as it has the potential for higher rewards, but it also comes with higher risk. The general beginner's investing advice is always to select an index, with the index consisting of a diversity of companies, as this has shown historically to outperform gold over the long term. But with the largest Islamic index, the HSBC Global Equity Islamic Fund, only giving you a 90% return over the past 5 years, you can see gold is something to consider. And so if I had to personally choose how to position gold in my portfolio, the best for low fees would be the iShares Physical Gold, although this is on the boycott list, and so probably would be the Invesco Physical Gold, ETC. The best for higher margin or niche products would be Wisdom Tree Physical Gold, and the best for a wildcard option would be gold mining companies. If I had to keep this all simple, gold is definitely a part of my investment portfolio, not because it's going to produce income such as dividends or I'm going to expect big year-on-year growth, but because it avoids volatility and I see it as a hedge against macroeconomic conditions. If you want to have ideas of other places Muslims can invest, then I'll leave a link to my review of Wahid, the biggest Islamic investing app out there. Go check it out, and I'll see you all in the next video.